We all have our favorite writers. Mine is a man by the name of Gerald May. Now, he's not an easy read. He's more like rich fudge, filled with caramel and nuts and chips and all things gooey. Little bites to savor. Too much, you get a tummy ache. But oh, those bites, so filled with deep truths and spiritual insights. The man truly was brilliant. He was a psychiatrist, addictionologist, poet, author, theologian of the contemplative nature. You know, his footnotes alone were good reads. Now, that's talent. Well, in one chapter of his book called The Awakened Heart was titled Expectation versus Hope. Oh, coming across it was serendipitous, as my life was devoid of hope at the moment. I kind of felt like everything I touched turned into a lime slushy with way too much green syrup, and I desperately needed help cleaning up the mess. Growing up as Pollyanna, I had unknowingly put myself in far too many painful situations than I needed to. And reading this chapter in May's book, it gave me this giant moment as I came to see that so many of my heartbreaks were because I did not know the difference between hope and expectation. Allow me to explain. May writes, "The difference between the two is hope is wishing for something to happen, while expectation is assuming it is going to happen. I mean, expectations can be useful when they're based on fact, and we rely on basic facts. The sun will rise in the morning sort of thing. I get up, put my foot over on the floor, it will be there sort of thing. That is an expectation. Trouble brews where we have our eyes set on false expectations, as in, because the sun rose this morning and I got out of bed and the floor was there, everything is going to be beautiful today. It shall be a gorgeous sunshiny day. No, it doesn't work like that. I was good on the assuming part most of my life, and I came to see that the cause of so much unneeded heartbreaks was because I mixed the two up. I mixed up hope and expectation. Case in point, the annual church picnic. As a child, I saw that was the day that all good things happened at our church, and thus my life. Our church elders rented out half of the forest preserve. Well, we had a large mammoth-sized church, and the elders all set up huge tables. They grilled brats and burgers, and being good German Lutherans, we could serve beer. There were cakewalks, and the ladies baked fresh goodies that most kind souls shared after they won. I knew right where to position myself. Well, my mother never made a decadent dessert anything, so these cakes were meaningful. Then there were the tug of wars for all ages and scavenger hunts, but my favorite were the carnival games. The kids, all those booths to earn tickets for ice cream cone and trinkets. Oh, those magic tickets could be turned in for the coolest toys. Kind your parents would never give you, you know. I lived for that church picnic. But one year, crisis struck. On the Friday before the picnic, I overheard Daddy, who just happened to be the head pastor of the church, and thus God's best friend, tell someone on the phone that there was a 100% chance of rain on Sunday, and they would probably have to cancel the picnic. Cancel the picnic? God would never let that happen. Daddy! Talk to him! Please? Well, my forefather tried to talk me off the roof for a good hour. Emotionally speaking, of course. Promising me he would. Now, I tried not to make a decision until early Sunday morning, if at all possible. Oh, I was on my knees every hour, reminding God how important that picnic was to world peace, expecting that he would answer me with a break in the rain, sunshine, and a rainbow for the inconvenience. Well, yeah, as the hours went on, I could just see it got even more grim. Thunderstorms, chance of hail. Why was God doing this to me? What about next Sunday? Okay, we could have it then, right? I mean, if God was so mean as to let my picnic get rained out, we could outsmart him. We could just move the date. I would survive, right? And yeah, unfortunately, the forest preserve was not available. But Daddy was sure they would set things up in the cafeteria parking lot. Minus the beer, of course. No, that would not do. It just would not be the same. I could not stock boys in the church cafeteria. I mean, no, my mind was made up. I was not going to sing hymns in church on Sunday. I was so disappointed with God. My expectations were dashed, and I spent all rainy day Sunday in my room. It's true. Well, getting back to Gerald May here. When our expectations are not met, we're crushed. Why? Well, we held steadfast to the fact that what we want to happen must happen for us to be happy. Expectations are brittle when they collapse. So do we, in heart-wrenching pain. And this is when people often blame God for not being true to his promises. They have unknowingly told him how their problems will be solved and reject him if it doesn't happen exactly according to the script. Those with faith then forgive God and then go on and write another script of expectations mislabeled as hope. And this cycle continues and continues until depression and desperation sets in. But hope, real hope, it's soft and willing to suffer pain as it lives in the promise of God. We can hope and even fantasize of glorious tomorrows with all our dreams coming true, but we must leave it in the field of hope, allowing God the freedom to meet our deepest needs, those of the soul which are so often known in our hearts, but not in our minds. We can hope the ending will turn out the way we want it to be, but then we must leave it open-ended and wait. Wait with great expectation for God to act, knowing that whatever happens will be for the best. That's a big pill to swallow sometimes, especially when it comes to expectations for our children. Like, they're going to grow up safe, survive the stupidity of their adolescent choices, move on to careers of our choosing, marry the spouse who adores us too and won't mind us moving in with them should the need arise, and then give us perfect replicas of themselves as our grandchildren. Yeah. So what happens when real life shows up? If we're wise, we can soften those expectations and start leaning on hope. And listen, I know that looks really easy on paper. More times than not, however, making the transfer is difficult. It is very difficult and painful. And the more we're attached to the outcome and the people in the outcome, especially our families, the harder it is to pry our little pitties off of those expectations. Just last week, my girlfriend buried her daughter, age 29. And many of our lunches the past few years were conversations about trying to keep our kids alive and the fears associated with dancing with the devil. I mean, whereas, we had two separate issues. The end point was the same. God, please let our kids survive. A little bit more at stake here than a church picnic. The last time we lunched, though, I saw my friend move from expectation to hope, however, and I stood there amazed as I was far from it. Depression of a chemical nature was the issue with her child, and they tried everything, and I tell you, everything to help her. Now, don't get me wrong, my friend would give up the fight, but there was peace in her heart, hope and a cure. Hope and a cure, but acceptance that her daughter's true cure might come in heaven. She made the transition from expectation to hope with sadness, but she was at peace. And I'm sure, I am convinced it was a major factor why she could speak of grace so eloquently at her daughter's memorial service. As the years go on, life hands us more and more rainy day picnics. We can't stop the events, and yet we desperately try. It's like we have a death grip on what our future is supposed to look like. Excuse me, especially as we age. And there's an old saying that says, insanity is resistance to what is. Well, insanity is also holding on to expectation that our last miles will be like the AARP Hilton commercials. Golf, tennis, world travel, fashionably underweight with strong knees, a thriving libido, and a well-stocked retirement portfolio. God, others of us would simply be happy to have family members still walking around with us without trips to the oncologist or cemetery. That's not too much to ask, we hope. Okay, so I still want to lose 30 pounds. But I will tell you, I felt a lot better when I went from expectation to hope on that one. I felt better in my own skin. I mean, I'm going to try, but it doesn't happen. It's not going to ruin my life. Surrender, or making the transition from expectation to hope, is talked about in many major religious traditions. In Islam, the concept of surrender is when a person abides by the 5 main pillars of Islam. Following the faith means surrendering or submitting one's will to God. In Hinduism, Krishna said, "Just surrender to me. I'll deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear." Gerald May speaks of the contemplative Christian tradition when he says, "Hope springs eternal. It cannot die. It is a gift of God, a promise of grace. It opens us up to love because it does not have to be bound by proven experience to be true. We can see the sun shining and hope it will be warm today, and if not, maybe tomorrow or perhaps the next day. In my case, a church picnic, my son's life." In closing, when we transfer our desires from hope to expectations, we are unknowingly trying to tell God how to save us from our situations and fears. And doing this robs him of the joy of his surprises, of love, of grace. Oh, Gerald May, I so hear you. God doesn't work that way, and he keeps reminding us of that fact, but we are so slow. God does not give us orders for the day and then leave us alone to construct our own redemptions. And we are always trying to beat God to the finish line because we feel our security comes from knowing and not from faith. Always trying to outguess the future robs us of the precious time of the moment, of the now. The now is where the peace of God lives. And in the end, isn't that what we're all after? A little peace. So often we expect safe passage in a world that is incapable of that task. So we gather ourselves together, we wipe away the tears, and we try to go on in hope of a better day. And we do it all together.